Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Alejandra Corbat, and I'm very happy that you are here with me this Christmas Eve, my favorite day of the year. I hope you're having a very nice day celebrating with your loved ones. And today is going to be a short class. I'm very sure all of you are very busy preparing the dinner and getting ready with the presents and everything else, but I didn't want to miss another class with Power Query. So I hope you enjoy this one. This will be kind of a second part of the class that we had last week. So let me start sharing my screen so I can show you what I mean. And right here, share, perfect. Excellent. So as we saw last week, we prepare a solution or we solve an exercise with nested tables. So we did all the transformations on those nested tables. We did all those transformations before we expanded the tables, and we got to this result right over here. Control-Shift+ to zoom in, and let me hide the queries. And here, let's click somewhere else just to get right of that screen. And now you will see at the end of the day, my source, let me see where I can see that part. My source is coming like this, right? So every single table, for those who haven't watched that session from last week, my files have different columns, different place where those columns start. Some of the tables have the title of the report, the title of the columns. Other tables have a note between the title of the report and the title of the columns. And there is one more, I believe here. For example, in this one, I have the title of the report, and then I have a blank space, and then the titles of the columns. So later on, what we did, we transformed by nesting some of the functions and transforming the information that is within these tables. So we were able to eliminate the first lines above the titles of the column. We eliminated that, and then what we did, we promoted right here, we promoted the headers. So every single table will have all the headers, item, and every single year could be 2017. Let me go back one step. So some of them will be 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, but there are other tables that will have, what is that? It has 2019, 2020, 2021. There is one table that was missing 2019, if I remember correctly. So there was no consistency in the numbers or the names of those columns. So 2017, 18, 20. Here is where we don't have 2019, and then we have 2021. So what we did last week, we were able to table skip to remove those lines that we don't want that were above the column name item. Then we promoted the headers. Once we did that, then we unpivot the columns that had every single year. So we kept the column item on the left, and then we brought all the years in one column. That's why that column is called years. And then the columns with the amounts were brought in one column that is called sales. So for that reason, every single table that I have here now, it has that layout. It has the item, it has the year, and it has the sales. So same thing here, same thing here. Every single file has that. The next step, we add the name of the store and the name of the zone. We added a column to this table, to the table that is coming from here, from unpivoted. We added a column at the end, and that column, what it did, it added a column to our tables, the tables that we were working with before. Then we had that new column that was called store zone. So I could grab the name of the store and the name of the zone. And I did that without bringing the extension. So you can see here, I said store, and I only brought zone 1. And I separated the name of the store and the name of the zone by a pipe. So you will notice here, and there are other ones that is store 4, zone 2, and so on, right? Then I kept only my column final, but before that, what I did, I split that column store zone. So that column that I put inside of the tables with the name of the store and with the name of the zone, so I split that through, still on the nested tables, through the table split column. I split that column that was called store zone. I split that based on that pipe. And then the new columns, when I split that one, so I will have 2 columns, one that is called store and another column that is called zone. And then at the end, I kept only the column final. So by doing this projection, if I go one step before, here I have all the columns in this table. In my next step, I'm just keeping the column final. And the last step, I expanded all the tables in a dynamic way, so none of the names are hard-coded. So far, so good, right? So it was very helpful. We didn't have to create a custom function for that. We just had to work with the nested tables, and we had just to nest those functions, right? We could have done a lot of steps. I'm sorry, let me just go back here. We could have done a lot of steps, but we could have repeat all this column, this function 3 times to process exactly the same that I have here. So what we are going to do today, I'm going to present how we can improve this code, how we can do it better, how we can do it more understandable, because we know what we did. Let me separate this. We know what we did here. If you follow the class last week, we went step by step, and we know what we process in here. However, if someone else comes to see our code, or if we need to see our code later on, we really need to think about it and just realize what we're doing here. Okay, and here I'm removing the top rows. Now I'm promoting the headers, and now I'm unpivoting other columns. So for that reason, I just keep my column item on the left, and then the years will come in one column, and the amount of sales will come in another column, and those columns will be called year and sales, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to show you today a better way to present this using let expressions let and in. Okay, we are going to have now let and in nested inside of this other let and in. Okay, so I hope you enjoy it. I hope you like it. And so let me see, because I have some familiar names right here. And Merry Christmas, Jose. Thank you so much for joining. I'm very, very, very appreciated. Oh, 11. It's 11 p.m. in Argentina. Oh my God, thank you so much for being here, for stopping by. See you on Tuesday. Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. If I don't see you, actually, Tuesday, we don't have class on Tuesday. I'm going to take a break. So thank you so much. I'll see you in January. Okay, thank you so much, Jose. So appreciated. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you so much for being here. Buenas noches y feliz Navidad. Thank you so very much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. I really didn't expect having audience today. It's Christmas Eve, so I'm very, very pleased. I'm very glad that you took a time just to come. Thank you so very much. Thanks. And Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad, Merry Christmas, Jose. Thank you so much. And here we have Wilson. Wilson, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for being here. Very appreciated. Muchas, muchas gracias. Thank you so much. And here we have Liju Matthew. Thank you so much for being here. Merry Christmas. Thank you for being here. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope you had a very nice week, all of you. Thank you so much. I hope you're ready with your Christmas shopping because there is no more chance to get ready, right? So hopefully Santa is going to bring you lots of gifts tonight. So tonight here in this part of the world, in another areas of the world probably is 25th already. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it that you are here. Excellent. So let's keep going then, and let me go down right here so I can give you more room so you can see the code a little bit better. So here I'm just gonna say done, and I'm just gonna duplicate this query where it says solved live. This is the query that we worked or that we processed last week. So this is the result from last week. So I'm not going to do the whole process again. We just did it last week. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work on top of this query and make the changes so you can see that here I have a solution already here. So you will see that our code is going to look like this. Our code, we're going to modify that in a way that now we're going to have variables. We're going to have those variables that are going to process exactly the same steps. We're going to get exactly to the same result, but we are going to work with these let and in expressions nested inside of this other let expression, okay? So this is the goal today. We are going to process this. So let me just duplicate the query that we got from last week, right click, duplicate, and I'm going to move that to where it says other queries. And I'm going to just minimize all this information. I'm going to just compress that. And right here, I'm going to rename my query and I'm going to say solve live 2022, December 24. Okay, excellent. I'm going to go to my advanced editor. So I'm here on the view tab, advanced editor, Control-Shift+ to zoom in. And I hope you can see well here. So this is our original code. And how you got it last week was just without these spaces. Everything else is exactly the same. Last week, we just got all of these without the spaces. Today, I just added that in here. So this is how you got it last week. The only thing that I'm doing right now to make it easier to read, I'm just adding one space after every single step, because remember, every single step here has a name. That name really is the name of the variable. These variables or these steps are going to give us back values. These calculations are going to return values for these variables, okay? And just before I continue, Kasim, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Cheers to Pakistan. Thank you so much. I hope you're having a very nice time the last weeks of the year. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that you are here joining me today. Thank you. Okay, so let me just go here and just add that space. It's just easier to read every single step. And let me just here and right here. And very quickly, what happened here is the source. The source is coming from our where our directory is. This is where I have that directory, those files saved. I did a transform some columns because I filter my information from my folder. I convert or I transform the extension as what was here, lowercase. I filter that information by I don't want any tilde in front of the name of the files. And also I wanted that the files that I'm gonna grab are those files that contain the word son. So let me show you what I mean by that. And let me bring this one over here. And this is my folder where I have my 3 files, son 1, 2, and 3. And The three of them are extension XLSX, which is Excel. But I want to make sure that if I save something in that folder by mistake, and let's say a PDF or a TXT, I want to make sure that I'm not going to grab that information. So for that reason, this filter also includes the extension XLSX. Let me go back to that part of the process. So here is where I have the information from my folder. I have the three files that I just showed you. Let me just do this. Okay. I have zone 1, 2, and 3 right here. Oh, okay. And I can see that these files, zone 1, 2, and 3, are also here on these three last lines. And they have that tier at the beginning of the name or in front of the name. And that is because the files were open at some point in this process. And that's a way to identify that the files are open with that tier in front of the name. So, but for Power Query, these files are different. So it will bring both, or it will duplicate this information if I just leave it as is. So the first thing that I did in that step that I show you in the advanced editor is that I created a consistency in the name of the extension. So I put everything lowercase. I could have said lowercase, uppercase, in this case, lowercase. So I just want consistency. Power Query is case sensitive. For that reason, I want to make sure that the extension will always be XLSX. So regardless if it's capitals or lowercase, right? The next thing that I did in my filter here is I remove anything that starts with that tier. So no starting with that tier, that column name cannot start with that tier. And then the name of the file needs to contain zone. And here I added compare ordinal ignore case. So it ignores if it's capital, if it's a lowercase, it doesn't matter. It will look for the word zone. So this function text start with allows me to do that. And then later on, I filter for the extension. I just want to keep XLSX. And then at the end, I did a projection where I wanted to keep only column content and column name, right? So that's what is happening here. And from there, I extract the content. The content, if I go one step before filter, I can see the column content has these tables as binary, right? So it has that information as binary. Let me move this down. It has binary, and I can just see the name of the file and how many bytes it has. So once I extract the content of these files, let me go. I created a new step. I use the table transform columns. I transform the column content. And then from there, I extracted information from Excel workbooks and I extracted the information that is a sheet. From there, I expanded that information here in extract. So you can see now I don't have binary, I have table, right, on this column. And then later on, I just click at those two rows and I expand it. And that's when I can see every single file, table 1, store 2, 3, and so on and so forth. So up to this part is very straightforward, right? I'm going to go back to my advanced editor. I was in the view tab. I selected advanced editor. And here is so far up to expanded. This is what we saw, right? So this is the part where I expanded using those two rows facing opposite facing. From there, what I did is this part, and this is the portion that we are going to modify. All of this belongs to the same step, to this variable unpivoting. We use the table transform columns. This function needs a table. The table is the result of my previous step, expanded. So that's going to grab me the information that I need, right? So that right here, let me see if we can see it. And I cannot see it, but it's going to bring me all the information. All right, actually, yes. It's going to bring me this table that has name, point one, dot one, data, and name. So the column data is the one that has the tables inside of this column. So it has the nested tables right here, right? So let me go back to our advanced editor. So that is the table that I'm going to start working with. From there, the column that I want to transform will be the column data. That's the one that has the tables. And this function is asking me to provide the operation or the calculations. What do I want to process there? And for that, I'm going to provide the keyword each, which is the keyword for a function. So this is the whole process, and this is the process that we are going to break down. So after the each, I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to add a let expression. Every time that we use a let expression, I need to start with the let, and I need to close with the in. Every time right here, we start with let, we tell Power Query, here we are going to start some calculations inside of these expressions. And then at the end, when we provide the result, we close it with expression in, and then we provide the name of the variable or the name of the step that we want the result to be brought, right? So in this case, I'm going to start with the expression let. And as we can see, we need variables, right? So we need names for those variables. And we can provide a simple name, just as simple as A. And I'm going to say equal. What is the first step that I applied in my process? This is my first step. And to do that, I'm going to let me just add a comment here. So I'm adding a backslash and an asterisk to start a comment, because I have two lines for this comment. And where the comment ends, I'm going to add an asterisk, and I'm going to close with that backslash, right? So this is telling Power Query that this is a comment. Now, it's not part of the process. It's just a comment. So I can kind of deactivate the result of this function, but I can keep the comment just to make sure that I'm not missing any of the steps on this specific variable. So the first thing that I had to do, I'm going to copy, because my code is here already. So I'm going to copy that part, the table skip, so I can remove the first lines above the titles of the columns that start, the column 1 start with item. And I'm going to say, after the A, I'm going to paste that, and I'm going to add a comma at the end. You will notice that every single step, every single variable has a comma at the end. This indicates to Power Query that there is a step after, right? So this is the end of this step, this is the end of this calculation, and then expect another calculation, another variable after this. The last step doesn't have that, because that's how it tells Power Query, this is the end. After this, just expect the result, right? So let's go back here with our A. And then that, for that reason, I add a comma, because there are more steps within this expression let, right? So I'm gonna press enter. And now I need to provide another variable. I'm gonna say B. And what I want to do now, the next step that we apply is to promote the headers. Once we eliminated the lines above of the titles, now we can promote the first lines as headers, because that now is the correct first line that needs to be promoted. So I'm going to paste. I just copy table promote headers, and now it's going to ask me for a table. Which table do I need to promote the headers? The first line as headers. Well, my table will come from my variable A. Say A, close parentheses. That's all that I need to do. I'm going to press enter. I will need another variable, because we have another calculation. We have our last calculation in that variable, or in that step, is table on pivot column. Once we have all the years as columns, right? And once we have the item column well identified with the correct title, so now I will be able to unpivot other columns, because I can bring all the information that is similar within one column. And what is similar? The years are similar. So I can bring all the years in one column, right? So I'm going to normalize my data. I'm going to create a tabular data information, right? So I'm going to bring all those years and put them in a vertical way. Let's say I'm going to bring that into one column that is going to be called years, and then I will have all the amounts for the sales. I'm going to grab all that information that is similar, and I'm going to put it inside of another column that's going to be called sale. So I'm going to copy table and pivot columns because their variable will be equal, and I'm going to paste that. For the unpivot other columns, I will need a table. The table will come from my last variable. My last variable has all the tables with the headers promoted, right? So the correct headers. So here, my table will come from variable v, comma, and from here, I'm going to say, I want to keep the column item on the left. So for this specific function, I'm going to copy from here, the name of the column that I want to keep on the left, right? And it can be one column, it can be several columns. In this case, I only have one, so I'm just bringing this one. So Control C. For that reason, you will see that I have only item, and I'm going to say Control V. The next information that I need to provide to this table on pivot other columns, you can see on the top, we have a little square with the explanation. We need to provide, I moved the mouse. We need to provide the attribute column as text. What is the attribute column? Remember that when we use table on pivot other columns, Power Query names the first column as attribute and the next column as value. Well, the attribute column in our case will be the years. So for that reason, I'm going to call that column year, and the next column that it says value column as text. The next column will have the amounts. So I'm going to call that sales. So I'm going to copy that information from our step here down below, and I'm going to select that, Control C, and then I'm going to go here after my comma, after the name of the column item, and I'm going to say Control V just to paste that information. This is all that I need. These are all the steps that I have in here. So I finished with the process. I need to bring a result. What is the result? That's going to be the result for this variable, for this step. So I don't want a comma because I finished with all the process on this specific step or within this specific expression. So I'm ready to provide my second expression or my closing expression that is in. What the result will be? I want that the result will be that table that's going to have one column that it says item, one column that will say year, and one column that will say sales. Once I have that, I need to close. Look at here. This will be the closing for this function. So this function will process all these steps, but now I have very well identified with every single step and what that step will process. As a result, I will have the last table. So now I need to close this function table transform columns, and I need to close the transformation to the column data. For that reason, I'm going to close with a curly bracket, and I'm going to close with a parenthesis. So I need to close this curly bracket, and I need to close this parenthesis. And I'm finished. So I'm going to provide the comma now because this step has one step after, and that is the step add store zone. So there is more in the process. For that reason, I need to tell Power Query, hey, there is another step after me, right? So I'm going to select done. And you can see that the result doesn't change. The result is still bringing me table combined at the end of the process. I can go here to my step unpivoted. I can click at any of the tables that I have there. And now you can see that those tables have been unpivoted, right? So I have now the item in one column, the year in another, and the sales in another. Nothing changed in comparison with the process that we applied last week. But now when you read to the code, you will see that it's easier to identify which steps this variable called unpivoted, you can see every single step that this variable has to go through, right? And at the end, it provides us the result of the whole process, which in this case is C. So far so good. No change in the result. Both techniques work. It's up to you which one you prefer, but I really recommend this technique when you have to share the queries with someone else or when you prepare the queries for someone else, because it's easier for other users to identify which steps are being processed within this function. Okay, excellent. And let's go to the next step. The next step is the one where we are going to add one column. And here I'm going to go to unpivoted. I have 3 columns. The next step, I'm going to add the column final. So I have 4 columns. And in this column final, I'm going to add a column to our table that is coming from the data column. So here I'm going to go to final now. I'm going to add this column where I'm going to add the name of the store and the name of the zone. And those names are going to be separated by a pipe, and the name of the file won't have the extension, right? So let's go to the Advanced Editor, go to View, Advanced Editor, and let's start working in that second step. At this point, my previous step on pivoted was presented like this, just with nested functions. We have transformed that into this. I don't need my comment anymore. I just use it just to keep it handy and just to make sure that I had all the steps and I didn't miss any when I was processing these variables and the calculations inside of those variables, right? So I'm going to go now to my next step or my next variable that is called add store zone. I'm going to add a column to the table that is coming from the previous step. That column that we saw here, let me see. That column that we are going to add to our visible table, not to the nested, to the table that we have in front of us. So that new column will be called final. So that's the name of the column. And then here is what we want to process inside of that column. So I'm going to say after the each, again, same thing. I'm going to press enter and I'm going to provide the expression let. Let's start with the process again. I'm going to press enter and I need to call a variable. My variable could be any name. In my case, I'm going to just continue with the alphabetic letters. So I'm going to say D this time. I'm going to say equal. And what do I need to process there? Let's see, but let's do the same. Let's add a backlash and an asterisk to open and to close the asterisk and the backlash. So this will become into a comment. And what I want to do there, I just want to say that I'm going to add a column inside of the nested tables. So I'm going to copy the whole thing, Control C, and I'm going to go here, Control V to paste. What I'm doing here is I'm adding a column to the tables or to the nested tables that are inside of the column data. Every single line has one table, right? That column inside of those tables will be called store space zone, and that will bring the information that I have on the visible table that is inside of the column name.1. I'm going to concatenate, or I'm going to add pipe to separate the content of both columns. And then I want to bring also the content of the column name. The column name.1 has the store name, and the column name has the name of the zone. But I need to bring the information that is before the delimiter. The delimiter is the dot. The dot is separating the name of the file and the extension of that file, right? So for that reason, I just want to grab the text before that dot. So it won't bring the dot and it won't bring the extension. So that's exactly what I want. Excellent. So this close the parentheses for the text before the limiter, close the parentheses for the table at column. And this is the only step that I have here. But since I am here, I'm going to add the next step within this calculation. So I'm going to provide a comma. Before I go there, the reason why you are seeing this as parentheses x inside of the parentheses equals greater than is because the tables are in two different environments. So the tables that are inside of the data column are in one environment that is different to the environment that the table that we have in front of us is. So the only way to connect both environments is through that parentheses, a parameter. Remember that for Power Query, a function is expressed with the parentheses, the equal sign, and the greater than sign. So the goes to sign, that's the name of the sign, right? So now the only way that we can go into the nested tables is through that function with a parameter. It's kind of giving us permission to go into another environment and then bring the information from this environment, from the table that I'm seeing, grab the information from the column name.1 and grab the information from the column name and have that inside of a table that is in another environment, right? So if I try to use the each keyword, it doesn't work because each works within the same environment. It works with the items on the same environment, on the table that I have visible. The parameter here is helping me to go into another environment and then get the information from these two columns separated by the pipe. Okay, as I said, since I'm here, I might as well just split the columns, name and name. So I'm going to split the new column that is called store soon. So I'm going to say E. E is going to be the name of my next variable. And I'm going to say, okay, equal, sorry. Once I'm there, so now what I want to bring is this step. I want to process this step within this function that I'm already working on. So for that reason, I'm going to move my comment. I'm going to Control X the star or the asterisk and the backlash. So I'm going to go now to the end of the next step, Control V. So now both steps are here as comments. And what do I want in that E variable? Well, what I want to split the column that is inside of those nested columns. So I'm going to go and I'm going to say, I'm going to apply this step. Let's see what happens. I'm going to copy table split column. I'm going to copy that here. Control V. Table split column is going to ask me for a table. The table is coming from my previous variable. So D. The name of the column that I want to split, store zone. That is the column that I created as my previous step or variable. So that is the column that I want to split. How am I going to split? I need to provide that as a function. So for that reason, I'm going to use the split text by delimiter. These are considered functions. So the delimiter that I need is the pipe, and I need to provide that within quotation marks to indicate that that is text, right? Once I have that information, now I need to provide the name of the columns where that information is going to be allocated. So I'm splitting one column into two, so I need to provide the name of those two columns. The first column will be store, and the second column will be zone. And that's all that I want from this function or from this step, right? So for that reason, I'm going to press enter. I'm going to say in because now I want to close this let. I want to close it with the in. And what do I want as a result? I want that this brings me the result of my variable E, which is a table with the nested tables with that column store zone split now, right? So this will be E. I'm gonna have another step after, and here I need to be very careful because before I had 2 steps to get the same result. Now I have only 1 step that is processing the same result. So my next step that here that is that is called custom. This is the one that is going to expand all the tables, right? In a dynamic way. So this information is the name of this step that I'm not having anymore. Instead of that, I created a variable within this previous step, within this step. So for that reason, this step, split store zone, doesn't exist anymore. The step add store zone is the step that will bring the same result. So in here, I need to remove this step, split store, and I'm going to replace with the name of the step or the name of the variable that is going to bring me the value that is going to bring me those tables that I can expand from the column final. And in here, I'm missing something. I can see I have an issue here. Let me see if you can see that. No, let me move on the side. So here at the bottom, it says token comma expected, show error. And it's giving me an error here on the in, but it's not there. My problem is that when I close this part, when I close this in, I just provided the variable e, what means that this function is still open because I haven't provided the parenthesis that closes that function. So if I go to e, close the parenthesis, because this parenthesis is closing this parenthesis, this calculation is closed right here. Once I do that, the error disappears, and then I'm able to say done. And now I have exactly the same information that I had before, but if you go back here, now you can see how clear this information is with my variable d and my variable e. Even if I move this over here, that this is part of the same function or the same variable, sorry. So d and e, and then my result is this variable e. Then you can see that it's just easier to read. If I click anywhere on the right beside where it says table, I have the information with the item, the year, sales, store, and so on split, right? Store and so on are split without any extension, without the pipe. So that works perfectly. And it's a little bit easier to explain, or it's easier for others who didn't create the query, it's easier to understand what was processed in here, right? And then I go custom, which expands all the columns. And here we have exactly the same information, which is very handy. So let me just very quickly show you here. This works perfectly. I feel I enjoy doing this. I still like a lot the nested functions. There is something about it that I just love. But this other technique is very helpful as well. So I leave it to you if you prefer one or another, but this is a great option. Let me open the advanced editor, Control-Shift plus. So you can see here, we start with the let. All the previous steps or the first steps stay the same from last week. Here is what we change: the unpivoted step and the add store zone. This last step, add store zone, we were able to combine 2 steps from last week in only 1 step because we were inside of a let expression, which allowed us to connect these 2 variables and make the calculations inside of this step. So I don't need this anymore. I can delete this comment because they became comments with that backslash and the asterisk. And this is the final code that we have for our query. Now, something to be aware of is let and in are nothing but keywords, these kind of friendly words, right? At the end of the day, this is nothing but the result of a record. If I remove let and I substitute that for the open square bracket, if I remove in and I substitute that for the closing square bracket, this is exactly the same that let and in mean. So here is where I open my calculations. Here is where I close my calculations. And then in here, I'm going to project what I want to bring from that record. So I want to open a square bracket, keep the name of the variable that I'm bringing as a result, which is C, close the square bracket. So by doing this, from this record, I'm projecting which step, which variable I'm bringing as a result is nothing but the same that if I remove this enter. So after I close the square bracket for the record, I open and close those square brackets with the variable inside or the name of the variable inside that I want to bring as a result. And if I press OK, done, nothing changes because it's bringing exactly the same information. So I'm going to go again to my advanced editor. This is an alternative if you don't want to go provide let and in. This is doing exactly the same. Let and in are only keywords for the same result, for the same thing. So now what happens in here, let me change this in the next step. I'm going to open a square bracket. I'm going to provide, or actually, let me leave it as let and in. And just let me quickly here. I want to show you something else. So in here, I have the variable e that I'm bringing as a result. If I'm bringing the variable e here anyways, I can get exactly the same result. If you don't want to have too many variables, I can bring exactly the same result in here. This is only the name of the variable that is going to bring us the value from this calculation. So if I do that, then I go and remove the comma from my first variable. I press enter. And I'm going to provide the expression in because I want that my let starts here, my in ends here because I want to provide the last step or I want to provide the result after the in. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the name of the variable. Now, when you enter the in expression, you cannot provide variable name equal whatever, right? So when you provide the in is the result that you are providing, no a variable with it, with a calculation, right? Not a variable name equals a calculation. No, when you provide the in, you are providing the result, and the result will be this. This will be the result of my function let. Of my expression let. I'm going to apply. I want to split the column that is coming from my variable d, and I want to add a column that I want to split the column store zone. I want to split by the pipe, and I want to create two columns, store and zone, and that's it. And now I need to close. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to close the parentheses for the table add column that I have here on the top. And I want to close the parentheses. So, sorry, first the parentheses that is closing the table split column, and then the parentheses for the table add column, and then the comma because there is a step after that. And I just need to delete this part here. And let's see. Let's say OK. And then we have exactly the same information. So for some people don't like to provide the last variable as the result of in. They like to provide the last calculation as a result of this let. And it works because I have a variable here which I'm referring to. So I'm bringing the result from this variable and I'm applying this function. It's up to you how you want to do it. Sometimes I just feel it's very easy to identify which variable I'm bringing as a result, and I just bring the variable name. So like we did it before, or like we have it in this other let and in, right? And same thing, you can use the open square bracket to substitute the let, and then you can use the close and square bracket to substitute the in, and then you need to provide opening a square bracket for all this calculation, and then close a square bracket for that calculation, then close parentheses for the table at column and the comma, and then you say done. And I think I missed something. I missed something here. Invalid identifier. This one didn't want to work. Let me see why. Oh, no, because I provided the calculation. Sorry, it's just with the variable. Sorry about that. Yeah, here you can't. Sorry. And this, you have to provide the in and the let. And let. Yeah, there we go. Now it should work. Because when we use the square brackets, we need to bring just as projection the step, the name of the step of the name of the variable that we're bringing as a result. Okay, here it should work perfectly. Yeah, it worked. Okay, excellent. So this is what I wanted to show you today. I hope you found this information useful. I will add the link of the video from last week on the description of this video, and I will provide this file as a solve file. I usually don't provide the solve files because I really like you guys to practice and try to do your own. But in this case, I think it will be handy to have the answer, this file on the one that I'm working on. So it will make more sense what I'm saying, and hopefully it will be more useful. Okay. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate all your support and just being here. Thank you so very much. If you are watching this live or the recorded version, I really appreciate very much your support and that you are here every week or watching my weekly videos. Thank you so very much. Very appreciate it. I hope you have wonderful holidays, and I really wish you the best on 2023. I wish you have a lot of health, love, and a lot of success, and you have just joy and a lot of success in 2023. Thank you so very much. And I won't have Saturday with Power Query next week. I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to take a break probably the first and second week of January. But I'll be back. so I just need to take a little bit of break. I have a lot of presentations coming in February, and I need to get ready with those presentations. I have like 4 or 5, so I really need to get into that. So I will be posting small videos, very short videos, so just to keep you with some stuff. So, but I will take a little bit of break, but I'll be here. I'll be back soon. So have a wonderful time, and if you have time off, enjoy it. And if you don't have time off, enjoy the last days of the year. And I hope you accomplish all your how do you say that? Well, what you promised to do during the day. So hopefully you accomplish that. Otherwise, you just keep going next year. Okay. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Kasim. Thank you I appreciate a lot. Thank you so much. Happy Christmas. Enjoy it. Enjoy with your family or with your friends or whoever are your loved ones. Enjoy it. And my kids right now, my cats and my dog are just waiting for me. So enjoy your time off if you have it. Enjoy the holidays. Enjoy everything that you can, because we have seen that life can change in so quickly. So enjoy it. Have a great time, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Thank you so much. Bye bye.